And there will be a game 7. Welcome to the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. WilMU Works. Danny Pommells and Ben Berry here. After a Sixers loss in game 6, 95-86, they did not have it from the giddy up. It felt like the moment was just a little too big for them. They went down 13-3 in this game, Ben, despite Jason Tatum sucking for 3 quarters. But he shows up and scores 16 in the fourth and just rains down 3-pointers in the Sixers players' mitts. And I'm a little disappointed that the Sixers couldn't rise to the occasion and came out and put up 86 points, expecting to win a basketball game. Putting up that many points is really chances are null, slim, void, fit all of the above. How are you feeling, though? Because I don't want to talk your head off here to start the podcast.
As you set the games, it was 13-2, 13-3, 15-3, something like that early on. And it was like, I hope this is not a sign of how this game is going to go. Like, that looked like they were going to be dog walked the entire game early on. Thankfully, it did not happen. However, still only scoring 85, 86 points is not great. It was an ugly game. They had their chance. They went up, not big, but they went up handful of points.
5 points, the largest Sixers lead, 16 Boston's largest lead.
So that was early first quarter, though, or maybe second, but I think first. The Sixers were up in the fourth quarter, and it's just some boneheaded plays down the stretch. And it was very reminiscent of like Heat Knicks in the 90s. It wasn't efficient offense on either side.
It wasn't pretty basketball.
No,
by any means,
it was not. But you said Tatum, like 16 points in the fourth quarter, and he hit back-to-back threes in under 40 seconds of real time. And it was just like he'll stink for 3 quarters, another slow start to the game.
He was looking like all G League, not all NBA.
He looked like LA Fitness or Lifetime, wherever you guys ball at. He looked real bad through the beginning of the game. And back to the finals is like, is Jason Tatum like that upper echelon of stars? Because in big games, he doesn't show up. And I'm not here to argue or debate that point, but through the first 3 quarters, he was bad. Fourth quarter, those 6 points in 30 to 40 seconds, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
16 in the fourth.
I mean, he finished fourth in the MVP voting, and regardless, he has the stamp of a star. He didn't quite have it, but this was indicative of his last 3 games. In the last 3 games, he's been 0 for 24 to start the game combined. So it's like, unfortunately, the Sixers allow him to get hot in the fourth quarter, but this game really indicative of a larger point that we've made continuously about these two teams is that even when their star player isn't playing great, the Celtics have the caliber of players and enough of them who can step up and fill that void and make it seem like they're no worse for wear. Marcus Smart came out shooting well. Jaylen Brown was okay. You saw, Derek White step up. Malcolm Brogdon, of course, was nasty, and he's a 6th man of the year for a reason. And it just was a clear indicator that the Sixers weren't, I know I said they weren't big enough for the moment. It just didn't seem to have it. And it definitely brought back, you open the door, the Sixers do, for all of the criticism of Harden not being able to show up in big games, the Sixers not being ready to close out. It makes you think back to the Hawks series when they blew that 28-point lead against them and allowed them to come back and win the series. So the last thing you want to do is have a game 7. It will be Sunday in Boston. I'm sure their fans will be scraping them off the walls. They'll be so excited about how that thing will play out. But the fans wanted to get behind the team. They were making it hard on them. There were little boos there at certain points, and the Sixers just didn't rise to the occasion. I mean, it's really no excuses to make. How'd you see it?
There's no excuses to make if you finish a series in 6, one less game, more rest. Game 7's in enemy territory. You get to do it. The arena, the city was looking for a reason to celebrate.
Yep.
It would have went nuts. Like the energy here in the arena, out in the parking lot, around town, coming today was just insane. And the city was fans were looking for a reason to erupt, and it didn't happen. They lost a key opportunity to get rest before the conference finals. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee they'll win Game 7, but it's a disappointment. Boston made bigger plays down the stretch. Sloppy play from both teams, but like in the office, I'm not going to. Maybe it was Coach Melton shooting too much. Like, why is he shooting 4 out of 5 times down the court? Terrible turnovers on Harden and Embiid at different points in time throughout the game. The Sixers had it and they just fumbled.
Yeah, they fumbled. Excuse me, a great opportunity. And like I said, it opens the door for all of the criticism and stuff that, we've experienced in the past, and the Sixers facing this juggernaut of trying to get past the second round for the first time in 20 plus years since 2001. And Harden, the criticism Harden has faced over the years in these closeout games and crucial games where he doesn't quite show up, and ends tonight a 4 for 16 night, 0 for 6 from 3, a -10. I mean, I really don't know what to say, is because there's no excuses to make for the way that they played, the way they showed up. Doc Rivers didn't quite have it. Joe Mazzulla starts the 2 bigs with Robert Williams and Al Horford, a great defensive lineup for them, and they hold the Sixers to 86 points.
Let's talk about Joe Mazzulla and Doc Rivers for a second.
Okay.
We all know how I feel about Doc Rivers as a coach.
Tell the people in case they forgot.
As a coach. I didn't think Doc Rivers should have got hired for this job. You said I dragged him after he got hired for not just the 3-1 leads blown in the playoffs, but the talent he has had, falling short with that talent. Like Tracy McGrady was a top 5 player when he was in Orlando. All right, yeah, he was young. Doc Rivers as a coach, a young coach, never got out the first round. The Boston Tea Party team, that big 3. Paul Pierce was thinking about leaving before Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett showed up, and that team was built off their defense, and a lot of people credit that to Tom Thibodeau. The 2 incarnations of those Clippers teams, the Lob City team, which I don't know if you've read what a lot of players have said or listened to different podcasts. They've been a little critical of Doc recently, JJ Redick, Jamal Crawford, but then he had Paul George and Kawhi Leonard for 1 year, and they fell short.
In the bubble,
Yeah, in the bubble, blowing a 3-1 lead. Sixers hired him, and Warren, you and me discussed and talked. Didn't seem like they had a real clear path or plan for who they would hire as a coach.
Right, because Doc Rivers suddenly got fired.
He got fired on Sunday, had a job on Tuesday.
Right, yeah. So they were like on the phone with him.
Oh, you're available.
Right.
Like, yeah. So is that at times he's outcoached Joe Mazzulla, which he should. Like, right. Joe's a first-time head coach. And that team, that Celtics team, is definitely win now team. Sixers are in the same place. Celtics just went to the finals a year ago, is win now. And it seems like a lot of times they're held back by their head coach. I don't have any insight. I'm not saying I'm hoping for this to happen, for someone to get fired. It seems like Sunday, Game 7 is Sunday. We don't have a time yet. Someone could be coaching for their job.
Yeah.
If Boston has taken a step back, they fired Ime. We have an idea why. All the details never came out, but they fired Ime, figured Joe Mazzulla, trust him. I don't know if that means Brad Stevens comes down and coaches again if they fire him. I don't know. But
wait. You think Mazzulla also is on hot seat?
I think it's a win-now team. And they've taken a major step back. Like
they've been in the same situation. They had
for
to
years.
I'm just saying Boston had to fight and come back against Milwaukee.
Right.
They had to fight and come back the year prior to that too. But I just feel like I don't know if Mazzulla is on such a short leash.
The reason I say he is a win now team, and Boston and some of the scheme strategies they come up with and they implement out there, it's clear like he's not ready. He's not ready. I don't know if they're willing to wait for him to be ready. When you got 2 players in their prime, there's talk about what Jaylen Brown is going to do with his future. It's a win-now team. Doc Rivers, you and me talk plenty over the years, and what I just laid out at the beginning of this minor soapbox I'm on.
No, you said you made some points. You definitely made some points, and I don't think it helps Doc Rivers because I wouldn't say cocky is the word, but he was definitely confident when asked pregame about the Celtics altering their lineup to the two bigs with Robert Williams and Al Horford, and he quickly, said, "Oh, we practiced for that all this morning. Like we were surprised they hadn't gone to that lineup already, and then that lineup comes out and stifles you. So whatever you practiced didn't quite work. Yeah, it comes down to shot making. Yeah, it comes down to execution. And the Sixers, in this game, they shoot 23% from 3-point range, 36% from the floor. Really just an embarrassing showing in front of your home fans with an opportunity to close out, which you shouldn't take lightly, and an opportunity to advance and move past all these demons of not making the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001, and also the demons of losing to the Celtics over all these years, because this is a carbon copy, or obviously the Sixers playing a little bit better than they had in past years against the Celtics, but really a carbon copy of that Toronto series where they went to Toronto for Game 7. I'm sure it'll be tight, but nonetheless, you got something to say?
Oh yeah, you got that, and something I just is evident in everything we said, but didn't explicably say it. Doc Rivers, who named one of the 15 greatest coaches of all time, and I've laid everything else out. To lose to a first-year head coach and a win-now team,
that's a fireable offense.
Yes,
I would think. Yeah, it's really no excuses you can make, because when it comes down to it, you might not have been the favorites, but the way the series played out, you had everything in front of you. This was the opportunity to pull out all the stops. And if we go over, how things progressed, they were closed within 4, closed within 5 points, but just couldn't quite extend their lead past that point. Maxey was definitely someone who I felt like stepped up and was could have been better. I mean, he was 9 for 20, but coming off a game where he was 6 of 12 from 3, you wouldn't necessarily expect that same type of prolific performance, but he showed up where I felt like there was times where, especially down the stretch, I didn't even feel like Embiid was on the floor at times. They didn't go to him offensively. He wasn't able to make any defensive stops, and he was pretty much neutralized there down the stretch, especially with Jason Tatum shooting the ball from the perimeter.
Yeah, and I don't want to come overly critical or harsh on the MVP, Joel Embiid, but MVP, like, you should be the go-to guy down the stretch. And
what do you feel like that was their execution fault? I mean, you can't really blame Joel if he's not getting the ball necessarily. Maybe he has to call for it.
I blame it on him. I blame it on whatever Doc was not cooking up, and I'm thinking a little mean Doc not cooking anything up in the timeout. But I think it falls on the team, like leaders, PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris, James Harden, been around for a while. They got Embiid, get your butt down in the paint, get him the ball.
Your sets. However, pick and roll.
Give me the ball. Like, MVP, earn the money. National game, everyone watching. Prove like you won the MVP, close out the game, and it just wasn't happening. And it's been other series, like the Sixers are definitely a better team when Embiid is on the court, but there's been other times where you're just looking for Embiid just to dominate in the fourth quarter, and it doesn't happen.
Excuse me. I think that most of all, I have some optimism. Going into Game 5, I was really, a big proponent of that back against the wall mentality, and them going and stealing one. And I really like how they played in that game, because it felt like they were leaving it all on the floor. Where they came out in this game were really tight. I felt like the Celtics experience just really told the story. I mean, this is a team that's been together for a while, battle tested, and for some reason, so many people don't like Marcus Smart, but if he was on your team, I'm sure you would enjoy what he brings. And I felt like he was a difference maker, because as tight as Jason Tatum was, Smart hit that first shot for them, and it was just all intensity and fight. I mean, he plays 42 minutes, 8 of 15 from the floor, plus 18, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, Marcus Smart carried them in a way that I don't think any of the other Sixers were prepared to do that outside of Joel and James Harden. I mean, Harden, those are the superstars.
Yeah.
Maxey showed up. That's a nice compliment.
Right.
But
I hear you.
So
Marcus Smart played very well today. He's, again, a player that you would appreciate having on your team. Not a fan of playing against them. I completely get why. Played well, 22 points. He's still shooting shots he got no business shooting. If
making them though.
He's 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. He was, what was it? 8 of 15 from the field.
Bro.
But it was a couple from beyond the arc. Like, why are you shoot? Like, get at the Jaylen Brown, who I still don't think can dribble, or Jason Tatum, who struggled. Like, I get it. But we talked about it. Like, it's clutch moments. End of the game, he's the one putting up the shot where I don't think it should be him.
Let's play some Bills, bro. Take a quick time out here. Of course, we're brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilmington University and students are in the game. Upskill in fields like cybersecurity, fintech, healthcare, and education, in person or online. Get in the game at Wilmington University. Find us at wilmu.edu. Injured for over 70 years, Lundy Law has been the #1 personal injury law firm in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Their services are exemplary. Their results are exceptional. Call 1-800-LUNDY-LAW to get the money you deserve. It's time to rush to new rewards at Rivers Casino. Now there's a whole new way for you to earn, redeem, and level up your rewards. Get your new Rush Rewards card and get more out of your game at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back here on the Sixers Talk podcast, and frustrating to say the least as the Sixers are facing Game 7 on Sunday. There was some frustrating moments in the game with the referees where, I mean, there's plenty of places you can start, but if we start at the end of the game with, how about the ball that bounced off of one of the Celtics' heads that
Robert Williams,
tried to say went out on the Sixers. They got that wrong.
Did they overturn that one though?
Yeah, they ended up overturning it. But Doc Rivers had to use a challenge to get them to overturn it when everybody in the arena could see that it bounced off his head. There was, on the flip side, the Celtics won a challenge when Al Horford stopped James Harden going to the hoop that the refs called a foul on, but turned out that he got all ball. The Sixers benefited because Harden retained possession and they were able to keep the ball. But there was a Joel Embiid block that they called the goaltend on that I think was a bad call. I think there's another one I'm forgetting, but overall, you figure at home you would get the benefit of the doubt on some of those calls. There were some travels that didn't get called and things like that. But I think, we don't benefit from being able to hear some of the post-game stuff to see the reaction because we're doing the podcast right now. But I would love to hear if the Sixers were asked about, how the referees played into the outcome.
This is my feeling. Unfortunately, you got to use a challenge when it's clear as day. Officiating, if it was bad, it was bad for both teams. You gave some examples for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think losers complain about officiating, and I don't believe the refs are going to call it in your favor if it's home. Like, the referees aren't from the Philadelphia area or Delco, where so many guys from. Shout out to Ed Malloy. That's the guy that just popped into my head.
Joey Crawford.
Yeah, Joey Crawford. And when they play in Boston on Sunday, they're not going to find officials for that are from Boston. Doesn't work that way. The Sixers had an opportunity to win.
There is such thing as home cooking, though.
Yeah, so I think that's something
the crowd can sometimes influence some calls. There's always moments like that.
If the crowd could influence calls, Kobe Bryant would have got called for a flagrant when he elbowed Mike Bibby in the jaw in 2003. So maybe 2002. So that's never been my steez to complain about the officials. There's missed calls and so much of it is judgment. It's going to be missed calls. It's going to be possible makeup calls and things like that. I think it also helps when you're not someone that complains all the time.
Right.
Not saying that any specific person out there on the court, but if you don't complain all the time and the one time you do complain, the official will be like, okay, they might have a point. I got to keep an eye on that. But players that complain all the time, it's like the kid that doesn't pay attention in class, or your parent, the kid that's just always complaining about this or that. It's like, oh, that's just my son. That's what he do. That's just my daughter. That's what they do. But one time they do complain, when they don't complain, it's like, all right, maybe I need to listen in on this.
How does this thing play out Sunday, bro? Are the Sixers ready for this moment? They didn't quite seem ready for this Game 6 moment. Game 7 in Boston. It's going to be in prime time, I would assume. I don't think they'll get the 3:30 game. That's just me. I think you want to see this historical series play out in prime time. But how do you think the Sixers have what it takes to win on the road in Game 7 and finally get to the Eastern Conference Finals?
The series plays out depending on what happened in the Nuggets Suns game that's going on right now as we record.
As far as game time,
yeah,
right?
It's game time,
right?
Preferably, game is so. There's a lot of people that's probably upset because it's Mother's Day. Shout out to all the mothers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to figure out how I'm gonna navigate Mother's Day. I got a nephew that has it's a baby dedication at my brother's church.
My daughter has her final softball game at 5 o'clock.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm hoping it's not.
But you're off Sunday, right?
No, I got to work Sunday. But I'm doing the late shows, so I have to be in later.
Right.
But that would match up well with what my schedule is if they played at 8. But a 3:30 game, I'm not interested in because how can I go and celebrate my daughter at 5 o'clock when I'm like got one eye on the game? You know what I'm saying?
Easy. As someone that's not a parent, I know this. I know that
she's a senior. This is her last softball game ever with her travel team, so they're gonna like do pictures.
But is this a championship game or like,
well, it's not a championship. It's just her very last game.
If they win, it should be playoffs or something. They won. They should have another game.
They played their last tournament in Medford this past weekend. So that was our last tournament. This is just their last game. It's an
exhibition game now, Matt.
Pretty much. It's an exhibition game, but it's a way to say goodbye to all the players who are graduating. So
man. Tough choices as a father. Make the right one,
bro. That's why I'm gonna take this phone. I'm gonna take this phone right here and have the Xfinity Stream app and be in the car. So I'm hoping it's at 8 o'clock though. I'm hoping it's at 8 o'clock. So I don't have to.
You hoping it's at 8 o'clock? Yeah. I'm kind of hoping it's at 1 o'clock. So I don't gotta go to this.
1 o'clock might not be bad.
I don't gotta go to my nephew's dedication.
But I don't think 1 o'clock isn't even an option though, right?
I don't know. I don't think it's an option. I didn't hear that earlier, but like nobody out there worked for the NBA, so right. Like. Sunday games usually at 1 o'clock. That's when they're finals, but it could be wrong. Hostile environment. Yeah. It's going to be tough for the Sixers. Doc Rivers got to cook something up nice. Embiid, Harden, Maxey all have to bring it. No one can have a bad game. It's something I said in the last podcast. You got to be an unsuspecting player to have like 15 off the bench.
Yeah, and Daniel House didn't quite have it tonight. Definitely not George Niang. The bench just wasn't there. You mentioned Melton earlier. Paul Reed had a couple of miscues.
It was a moment in the game where I think House, Melton, and Reed were all on the court at the same time.
I mean, and
why?
And it didn't do anything for the 76ers. I don't want to say it this way because it seems like the Negadelphia thing. But how many times have we seen them in these must-win pivotal games and just not show up? I mean, and just during these process years, I mean, you can go back to the Hawks series, you can go back to several series against the Raptors, and especially the Kawhi Leonard shot. They just didn't have enough. Even with Jimmy Butler, and now even with James Harden, you get rid of Ben Simmons, and it's just things just aren't shaping up the way they should. Maybe this is the moment where their back is against the wall and everyone thinks they're going to lose, and they suddenly come out on the other side. But what
Shaq always say on the TNT broadcast, like
what?
You all-star player, you average 25 in the regular season and 30 in the regular season. You gotta give me 35. You gotta give me 40.
No.
Maybe we gotta ask Embiid to 45.
Him and Harden.
45, 15 rebounds from him. Harden at least 20, Maxey at least 20. That's 85 right there.
Yeah, they just got to impose their will, and I don't feel like they quite had what it took to. It didn't look like they had it, period. Like, it just looked like they were a little lost in the sauce. And Joe Mazzulla said before the game, which seemed, kind of funny, because he was like dead serious, and he said, I'm ready for war, and like stares down the media. But it seemed like they were prepared. It seemed like they were ready for war, and they're going back to Boston, with the series tied.
When coaches or players in any sport, not specifically
using that, you don't like the euphemism?
Well, maybe I'm it doesn't hurt my feelings or anything, or I'm not offended. It's just like I remember
there are real people going to war.
I just remember after 9/11, a lot of like analysts or coaches said they want to say that because there's real people in war. Then like every once in a while, like someone says it, and then there's someone that be like, "Oh, we play a game, or this is work."
Sometimes we're an overly sensitive society because the guy who went into the 7-Eleven in the bathroom and said, "I'm about to drop a bomb in here," and all of a sudden they called 911 on him when he was just talking about.
But that's slang terminology. I mean,
I'm ready for war. I mean, he's
you said sensitive. I thought you was about to. I was about to say, what Bob Huggins said wasn't sensitive. I thought he was about to go down that route. He was wild.
I'm just talking about the funny.
Yeah, like the slang terminology stuff like that.
I'm ready to drop a bomb. And
then it's going to be it's going to be a hard fought game. If Sixers lose, it's going to be another second round series team get my hopes up. Like, don't show me MVP, all NBA stuff. It don't matter. Get the first.
If they lose, it's going to make next season.
Get the 1 seed. It doesn't matter. Like difficult. Fans, show me in the playoffs when it counts, and we'll see.
Well, I spent, as you know, half the year trying to talk about the journey as part of the destination, and the regular season matters. It's a compliment to the postseason.
Journey part of the destination. You ever take your kids to Disney World?
Yep.
They care about that drive down,
or a flight or whatever.
They care about that flight. No. That's just the drive because that's real.
But they're real kids. We're adults. We're talking about adult stuff.
Kids don't care about the drive either.
We're talking about adult stuff.
Adults got enough money to fly,
bro. But I mean, how do you even, like, you put so much and so much has been made about this team and the process and what the results of the postseason would be, and PJ Tucker, and getting them through the regular season, and getting healthy to the postseason and all that stuff, and then you once again lose in 7 games in the second round. It just makes the pressure coming in the next season like everyone's in the Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately mode. And you're talking about maybe getting a new coach if they do lose, and like it's
only more.
It's like a must win. Like, you have to win this game Sunday. I feel like everything gets screwed up.
I feel like it's only more pressure if nothing changes.
How? A new coach coming in would have pressure. So if Harden and B stay, they're gonna have pressure.
It'll be pressure. All right. So let me rephrase that. I feel like if no changes are made, it'll be more pressure than if there are like changes to the roster, head coach change, maybe some front office changes.
Maybe not maybe the fans are still going to be.
It'll be pressure.
Yeah.
If Doc Rivers is the head coach,
might try to sell something,
if the Sixers lose Sunday, Doc Rivers is the head coach next year, and B, Harden, Maxey, Harris, Tucker are starting 5 still. I feel like that's more pressure than any other scenario
because they just ran it back.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like obviously the so much is made, happens in the off season. They need to get deeper on the bench, which we've said several off seasons in a row. Go ahead.
Let's stay positive. Let's not think about that yet.
All right.
Positive.
Back it down.
Back it down.
Back it down. All right. Hands
Game
off.
7.
Hands off. Game 7. Back against the wall mentality. Put the hood on, the sunglasses, the headphones. Lock in. I want everybody to come in all black. I need something. I need some
come into the office, come into the living room in all black.
No, all the players coming to the game all black. Or the fatigues like Miami Hurricanes back in the day or something. Like, it's got to be like bunker mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Show up in slides or ugly Crocs. Yes, if you wear Crocs, those are ugly. Show up that. Just show up and actually play.
Man, it's not how I expected this to turn out. I'm a little deflated, Ben. A little deflated, bro.
I mean, just make sure you get the women in your life something for Mother's Day Sunday.
I did. I ordered my wife some of these shower steamers. You ever peep those? It's like gives off a smell like lavender, and it also like creates like this aromatherapy type thing. The shower's hot, you got the smells going. And then I got her an electric lighter for her candles.
Okay.
And flowers.
Okay.
While she said she didn't want anything. So I said, you know what? I'm not listening to that.
So my mom, I think since I got the baby dedication on Sunday, we're doing something next week, dinner, um, as an event. Then I got my sister's candles that said like, the best gift I can give you is me as a brother.
I stayed away from the cards this year.
Yeah.
Too.
Then I got some other like women that are moms in my life. I got them a card like your my favorite grandson got me this mug, and on the other side it says "P.S. Thanks, Ben," stuff like that.
So you make yourself look good. Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah, I got my mom some flowers too,
Okay.
so I definitely want to mention that. But much love to all the mothers out there who listen to the podcast. Hope you get your mom something nice. A Sixers win would be a nice Mother's Day gift for some moms out there. Hopefully the team shows up and doesn't shrink in the moment and but see what it does, all that those James Harden game 7s where he had the triple double with turnovers and all, against the Warriors, and all that starts to come up and
don't speak
get
it
all the sediment.
Don't speak it. Positivity.
Bro, it ain't gonna be because of me. It ain't gonna be because of what I say. These players need to show up. So I ain't even falling for that one. But always a pleasure, Ben. Check out Noah Levick's work on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com. For Ben Berry, I'm Danny Pommells. This has been the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. WilMU Works. We will see you next time.